Welcome to Art Bazaar, a podcast that chats with artists of all types to explore the depths of creativity. Brought to you by the Alternative Gallery. We'll be releasing new episodes every week with bonus episodes dropping randomly. If you like what you're hearing, you can support this podcast by going to thealternativegallery.com and clicking on the podcast tab. I'm your host, Brandon Wunder, creative director of the Alternative Gallery, a nonprofit arts organization in Allentown, PA, run through the efforts of dedicated volunteers. On this episode of Art Bazaar, we once again gather the co-founders of the Alternative Gallery to continue where we left off in our premiere episode, where we spoke about starting the Alternative Gallery and the process of building and growing it over the years. We'll touch upon our 10-year anniversary show we held last year called AGX, as well as many of the fun things that have happened since. And joining me once again are my co-founders, Echevarria and Rob Riegel. How you doing, comrades?
Doing well.
Good.
AGX, 10 episodes in, already number 10. How you feeling? What do you think?
10 episodes already.
This is number 10.
Wow, there you go.
What are your thoughts so far?
I'm really enjoying it. Getting a different perspective on all these faces that I've seen so many times. It's really been cool.
Yeah, the podcast has been great. I find myself listening to it when I'm painting or cleaning the house, just having like something in the background, learning about people that I've seen at like the artist meetups, people that I've seen around the building. I know them by face and by name, but I don't really know them. And like hearing their episodes, I learn about them. And
a lot of these artists that we've had on are people that you already know.
Right.
And you told me that you're learning things about people that you know, but you're still learning more. Right. So for those who are completely unaware of these folks, I mean, it's all new information. Right. So I like the fact that it's helpful for both their friends who know them and people who have never met them.
Absolutely.
So some of the episodes that we've had so far, what are some of the standout episodes or moments? Either one of you, if you want to discuss what's stood out so far.
I really enjoyed Rugged Imperfections, Emily and David, because I do know them, but I also found out so much more about them. And just hearing like how they got their start and how David's kind of developing himself into like an artist. Yeah, they're really, really sweet people.
Their trip to Greece was really fascinating.
Yeah.
Their explanation of how the Greeks there saw art in contrast to how we see art.
Yep.
How about you, Rob? Any standout moments?
Yeah, actually, the one that stands out most for me, it was the Brother JT episode. He was talking about his state of mind when he's on stage and how, you know, when he's not performing, he's not a very social person. He's not really great with people and not like super good with communication, but on stage, that's how he gets across to people and that's how he connects to people. I've seen JT perform a couple of times before that, hearing the podcast and then seeing him perform at the WMUH show, you know, shortly after. I observed him in a different way, you know, seeing him sort of like move across the room, keeping to himself quite a bit. He was off to the side for a while. He's not like some of these other artists or other musicians that come in. Some people you could tell they take just as long to get dressed the night of the show as they do actually performing. And like JT came in, he looking like he ran out for a pack of smokes or some milk at 7-Eleven. But then when he got on stage, he was electric. Understanding that more after hearing the podcast, just it makes, I don't know, I think it just adds a whole new flavor to the performance.
Yeah, I think insight goes a long way when you're able to apply it correctly. And I thought it was very intriguing that he said very specifically that he was not a musician, he was a performer.
Right.
Which I don't know how many people have really told me that before. I think most musicians or artists I know, they're very sincere and strong-willed about it being known that they're a musician and artist first. JT was like, nah, man, I'm a performer. I don't care how bad I play, how wild it is. I'm here for the kicks. I'm here for the attention.
It's interesting because a lot of the time online, when you describe who you are, what you do, or just to anybody, I always say I'm a painter instead of an artist because it's like I want people to know that painting is the prominent thing that I do. Because I do like animation, comics, all kinds of stuff, but painting is like my passion. So like I want people to see me as a painter first.
Yeah, I know some artists are very specific about mediums, that they don't want to be so generally referred to.
Right.
I loved all the guests. That's why I invited them on. Every single guest I had amazing conversations with beforehand, and I just couldn't wait to get them on the show. In addition to learning things, what I really loved was the feedback I got from mostly other artists, because a lot of artists are listening to this podcast. I'd say our audience of this podcast currently is mostly comprised of artists.
Perfect.
And getting their feedback has been really amazing. and knowing that people are listening and people care and they're always looking towards the next episode. A lot of feedback I got was on our episode, the first one. Now, okay, it's easy for anyone to just listen to the first episode because it's the one where you got to start at, right?
Right.
But people were intrigued by our story.
Nice.
A lot of people, even artists we've worked with for a long time, they were unaware of our trials and tribulations, of our trip-ups and our mishaps and all the fun we had in between doing it.
We should do a future episode where we kind of break things down a little bit more because there's so much there.
Yeah, we were flying through that at supersonic speed. I mean, like we said in that episode, we barely even scratched the surface of it.
Right.
So for this episode, because a lot of the previous episodes leading up to this one, we were trying to tie it in with events going on here at the gallery, or in the case of like Glenn Tickle, he was releasing a special, or Mark Malaire, he was on the front lines of the writer's strike. We were trying to get current events. We don't have an event at the gallery this weekend. It's a rare week off for us, which is nice. So I thought this was a nice way for us to kind of reconvene as the main gallery co-founders, talk about what we've done so far with this first batch of episodes, and kind of keep that conversation going from the first episode. Because like I said, people were fascinated. I think we do have a really intriguing story. We're so close to it, so I think it's now become hard for us to gauge how interesting it is. But it's pretty amazing.
Oh, totally.
From people that you've talked to, did they mention any episodes that really stood out to them?
I know Tyler had mentioned Jonesy, but Jonesy's just this lovable character that's like, how can you not?
Yeah,
like,
what did you like about Jonesy's episode?
We didn't get into it, but I know that they mentioned that.
Yeah. Oh, Jonesy's a character through and through, man.
Yeah, totally.
I've definitely gotten a lot of good positive feedback about like his LA stories. He's that kind of person you can just listen to him talk.
Absolutely.
Just let him go.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Yeah. No, he's a fascinating creature, and I'm glad he's found this new life with us young bucks.
Oh yeah.
In comparison to him,
he's our old man.
He is, and Chris Jones is a great guy. He has multiple children. I don't want to speak exactly how many because honestly, I don't remember. It's more than one and less than 50. I'll say that's somewhere in that range. His second grandchild's coming this week.
Wow.
So that's a thing. Chris Jones is a grandpappy. Him working with us has been, I know, very important to him, he's told me. Because he didn't get to travel for many years. He said he hasn't been on a plane for over 20 years. So he went with us to that Asheville trip, and now he's dying to go on a trip on a plane with us somewhere.
I would love to do another trip with Jonesy.
You can tell from his episode that he wants to go back to L.A. So
let's do L.A.
We got to go find some dingy bars and just set Chris Jones loose and see what happens. It might be a documentary. Or an episode of Cops. Or both. So I wanted to try something different this episode that we haven't done before. Typically, with the guest, we just interview them about their experiences, their insight, their projects. This episode, I wanted to kind of talk about first some stories going around, some current events that I think are important to the art world and that creative people in general might be interested in, and then head into some of the more meatier stuff like the AGX show and where things have been for us post-pandemic. And then at the end of the episode, we're going to talk about what the future has in store for the Alternative Gallery and some of our wishes and hopes and dreams. But this first story is something that will potentially affect a lot of artists that we work with. And that is the sale of Bandcamp. Bandcamp, it's a popular site that musicians host their music through. So on October 16th, 2023, Songtradr finalized its purchase of the online music marketplace Bandcamp. This is the second sale of Bandcamp in only 18 months. After surprise purchase of Bandcamp by Epic Games, they make that Fortnite game.
Oh, okay.
They bought Bandcamp in March 2022. Then Songtradr, it's a music licensing platform which helps musicians get their work in TV, movies, video games, commercials, and other media. So basically, you make music, you upload it to this service, and they try to license it out for you. And then they take a small cut, and they have different tiers based on you pay this much, we take this much, that kind of thing. So far, 50% of Bandcamp's staff has been laid off.
Wow.
A move that Songtradr claims is a cost-cutting measure, which does echo the words of the former Bandcamp CEO, Paul Wiltshire, who told media outlets that the cost of running Bandcamp had been increasing significantly and that it had become impossible to continue running the business as is. So let's hope these cost-cutting measures are effective and they can keep Bandcamp as a useful tool that so many musicians rely on. I know the main concern for a lot of musicians is having the artist first revenue share tampered with. Bandcamp gives the majority of the share to the artists. I think what artists use the most is what's called Bandcamp Fridays.
Yeah, I've heard of that before.
Yeah, so it allows, so musicians can basically, anything they sell on Bandcamp on Fridays, Bandcamp takes no cut. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of been like this cultural element, which has really grown the last few years. Bandcamp Fridays have become a big thing. You see a lot of bands posting about it. I know a lot of bands are almost like their social media schedule is kind of like geared towards that Bandcamp Friday.
Right.
I think what's really the issue here is that Bandcamp, it not only allows you to sell digital downloads, but physical media, which something like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, they're not doing that. And this is where I think Bandcamp is so important. So first of all, what are your thoughts on the sale of Bandcamp, either one of you?
I'm a little biased, first off, because I just got through a 5,000 person layoff at my company. So that part royally sucks. I mean, anytime you hear that happen in any company, that's a horrible thing. I'm also a little curious, and, you know, if I was a musician on Bandcamp, I'd be a little concerned about the fact that the company that bought Bandcamp is a music licensing firm.
Correct. In all fairness, I wasn't even aware of Songtradr until this happened. I'm not a user of it, so I have no real opinion one way or another. Mm-hmm. I looked online. There was a range of opinions on it, some hailing it as this amazing thing that's helped jumpstart their career, others ripping it apart, saying that they're really choosy about who they pick, and people getting locked out of their accounts. So I have no dog in this fight. And Songtradr, in their fairness, has said that no changes were going to be made to Bandcamp Fridays or anything like that. But that's a spokesperson saying that.
Yeah. Right. So on two different sides, I see musicians who maybe don't fit that corporate TV commercial sound. And yeah, are they going to get ignored, or are they going to get tuned out of the general experience of someone just going to the website blindly looking for new music? Are those types going to get tuned out? On the same coin too, if this is a music licensing firm that, like you were saying, tries to get their music out there into media and things like that, what if one of these musicians don't necessarily want their song to end up in a Jeep commercial or something like that? Are they going to have that say? Is this company going to have free reign to license out all of the music on Bandcamp?
No, artists still, of course, will retain any kind of creative control of their work. It won't be authorized. So from how I understand it, Songtradr, that side, and the Bandcamp side are going to remain separate. Okay. It's not going to be the same thing. I don't know what kind of changes they will make, if any. I think overall it might be better in the hands of Songtradr than a video game company. I mean, at least these guys are already focused on musicians and getting music out there. So the 50% layoff, I mean, yeah, that sucks. But hopefully it's in a way that they're going to utilize their existing staff that's already kind of working with musicians in this way and making the company run more efficient and making sure that that artist first revenue stream is still there, because I'm concerned about it regardless. I mean, the second sale in 18 months, that's not a great sign. And I'm a big proponent in telling independent musicians to use Bandcamp. I'm very anti-Spotify.
Are they keeping the Bandcamp name?
At this point, they said there will be no changes. No on the surface changes. But part of the issue right now with that 50% staff layoff has been a lot of those people that are no longer there. They were the ones kind of vetting what was uploaded. Right. Gotcha. So there can be a lot of inappropriate stuff that might not be suitable for that platform getting through. And there's a lot of services down right now. I mean, it's a transition. Anything can happen. I mean, but this sale was finalized literally 1 week ago. This is a brand new thing. But the reason we're talking about it is musicians need to keep an eye on this. Because right now, Bandcamp is the best platform for selling your music online in a combination hybrid method of physical and digital media. In my opinion, it's the best. And if Bandcamp were to go down, I don't know if there's something out there that could take its place right now. We might need a creation of something new. Because like I said, I have no faith in a service like Spotify. None whatsoever. That whole streaming, that's like a marketing vehicle. That's not a way for artists to make a living off of their work. And it probably is never going to be. This is where physical media is so important, and also being able to sell directly to your customers. And the fact that Bandcamp recognized that and allowed 1 out of 7 days a week for the musicians to go right to their audience with no cut, that shows some merit in my opinion. So I'm definitely concerned. Pretty much every band that's played here has their stuff on Bandcamp.
Oh, definitely.
I do agree that it is in better hands than, if it were a video game company. However, I mean, I guess, I don't know, time will tell depending on how they decide to manage it and what they end up doing, what their vision is with Bandcamp.
Well, let's hope for the best because it's been an amazing platform all these years. And if they make any changes, let's hope they're positive because change is necessary. We shouldn't be scared of it. We should embrace it. But let's hope that it's change that actually support the art aspect and not just solely profit motive, because that doesn't seem to go well for artists. So we have another interesting story that I've been dying to talk about, and I'm going to let Rob fill us in on this one. When we first heard about this story, we kind of thought it was just one thing, and then as we learned more, it became this much deeper, darker tale than we expected. So, Rob, why don't you take it away? Tell us about this story.
The initial story that we see is an elderly couple from France are suing an art dealer after they sold them an African mask that they had found in their summer home or in their spare home while they were cleaning it out, getting ready for sale. So they took it to this antique and art dealer, and they kind of looked over it and ended up selling it for 150 euros or about 158 US. Little time goes by, and in September of 2020, this all happened in 2021, September of 2021 rolls around, and they're reading the newspaper and they see the mask and they see that it recently sold at an auction for $4.4 million. And they were not made aware by the art dealer that they sold it. They were literally reading the newspaper in the morning when they found out that this thing that they thought was, valued at $150 was now $4.4 million. They obviously felt bamboozled. So they took it upon themselves to file a lawsuit against the dealer, claiming that he withheld knowledge of the value of the mask and that, they should be entitled to, I guess in France, you can cancel the sale if you were knowingly misled in the process. So they're trying to nullify the original sale to the art dealer, and I guess by default also nullifying the $4.4 million auction deal so that they would retain ownership of the mask.
And in France, while this lawsuit is underway, the money has been frozen.
Correct, yes. So I think it ended up, it was $4.4 million was the sale price, but after fees and everything like that, there's still $3.3 million in US or 3.17 something in euros.
$1.1 million in fees?
Yeah.
What the fuck am I doing wrong?
Yes, we're at the wrong end of the art world here,
Good
apparently.
God.
So this elderly couple, they're in their 80s.
81 and 88, I believe.
81 and 88, yeah. They have this lawsuit. Now, they are asking $5.5 million in this lawsuit against the dealer with the claim that he withheld knowledge and knew exactly what he was buying and shortchanged them purposely in order to make an extra buck.
I love they're asking for more. Fuck this guy. Well, let me ask you this question, because I didn't see this upon my initial research. This elderly couple, from my understanding, they didn't know the history of this mask, nor were they involved in the art world in any way.
Correct. Yeah, so this was something that was a hand-me-down.
So these people essentially could just have been someone's grandparents, right?
Basically, yeah.
So just imagine that this elderly couple we're speaking about are your grandparents who got taken advantage of by this art dealer, right? But it gets even darker. Go ahead, Rob. Tell them what this mask was.
Yeah, so it turns out that the grandfather of the elderly man who initially sold the mask was a colonial governor in Gabon, Africa in the early 1900s. And the gentleman did some pretty unsightly things. I'm not going to talk too much into that because that's a whole other story. Do your own research on, the colonialization of Africa by the French. You can figure it out. Needless to say, it's quite likely that this mask was not obtained by legal sale by this guy's grandfather. Now, as a result of that, there is a group of activists from Gabon that are actually using some pre-established law in France or pre-established legal rulings in France from 2020 in hopes of getting this mask repatriated back to Gabon.
Now, but tell us why they want to repatriate it. What makes this mask so special?
I apologize in advance if I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but it is a Ngil Society ceremonial mask from the Fang people in Gabon. Now, what that basically means is, to my understanding, is that the Ngil Society was a group of vigilante witch hunters, if you will. They were this secret society that would go around essentially, witch hunting, for lack of a better term.
So it's like Blade's ancestors.
Yeah, you can kind of think of it like that, yeah.
I would love that movie.
Now, this mask, what makes it extremely rare in the fact that this particular mask, because it comes from such a rare group and it's such a specific ceremonial mask, that they estimate that there's roughly about a dozen of them known to still exist in the world, which, makes it quite a bit different than your average African art mask that may in fact have been worth that $150 that they originally sold it for. In fact, in doing my research on this too, I found that the dealer himself even had a little bit of trouble getting to that eventual 4.4 million. So he went to 2 different auction houses in France when he first got his hands on the mask, and they put it somewhere between $100 to $600, I think was the highest value he was able to get. He went for a third opinion and got some carbon-14 dating done on it, and that's when they found out it was quite a bit older, 19th century. That put it at around like 300,000, 400,000 range. And then it wasn't till it got to its final auction block when it was established that this was such a rare mask from this particular society, and that's when it got up into that 4 million range. But also that's the time when these activists burst into they actually disrupted the auction.
Wow.
In the midst of the sale, trying to demand the artifact's return. One gentleman claiming to actually be a member of this Nagil community from the Fang tribe or Fang area of Africa.
And how is this not bigger news? I kind of stumbled upon this story by accident, mentioned it to you. You did more research. You told me, and I'm like, this is way more insane.
Yeah.
How we thought we were going to frame this story was that essentially an elderly couple got duped by an art dealer. And then we peeled back the layers, and it was far, far more than that. Now, I'm curious, because they don't mention any names. The art dealer is known as nothing other than
Mr. Z.
Mr. Z, right? Did it mention anywhere that you saw what other things he's been involved with as far as sales as an art dealer?
So, no, I actually at one point even got a transcript of the court record from the first attempt at a suit that was initially ruled in his favor, but then the elderly couple appealed, so it went to a higher court. I was able to get the transcript from that court record. The couple, the art dealer, their names were anonymized to single letters like this Mr. Z. His business was mentioned, but there was no specific name mentioned of his business. Like, they're very keen, it seems to be, on keeping everything anonymous.
So the one thing that I would like to point out is I call into doubt that this guy didn't see something special about this mask. There's no way that he got this winning lottery ticket. He knew that something was different about this mask. Whether he actually knew what it was or he just had an inclination, he knew he was duping this couple, in my understanding of it. What do you guys think about this?
Absolutely.
So part of the evidence in this, the couple's lawyer points out that, again, they didn't mention the website, but they said that this gentleman's website lists him as being an appraisal expert. But then his rebuttal to that was that he wasn't an expert in African cultural artifacts and that he didn't have personal access to the carbon-14 dating process, so that he couldn't have known.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I'm not a scientist, so therefore I don't know anything about African culture. This guy, being an art dealer and being involved with antiques, sees a lot of stuff, okay? The human mind is built to focus on patterns. When you see something like this that jumps out at you, it's because you haven't seen it before. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious how they even came up with such a low number. I mean, like, think about antique stores around here. If you were to see even a knockoff mask from 50 years ago like that, you ain't gonna get it for $150.
Yeah, what avenue did they take to sell this? Was it at a flea market? Like,
how do they even find this guy? It's insane. So one of the things I want to talk about with this is the art dealer aspect before we go any deeper. This is something we've talked among ourselves about, and also something I've personally spoke with a lot of artists about. And it's kind of like the collector world, the art dealer world. As artists, we, of course, want people to buy our work, right, Jay?
Of course, yep.
We rely on those sales as long as we want to be a full-time artist. Otherwise, we're working some other job to support our art, which I think the goal for a lot of artists, you included, Jay, is to make your living off your art, correct?
Absolutely, yep.
So we depend on those sales. But too often, when an artist starts getting to a certain point, we start running into these guys like Mr. Z. They kind of treat art like a stock, where they want to buy cheap and sell high. And yes, we need the money, but it feels really dirty when we have to involve ourselves with those people, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Have you had any experiences like that, Jay?
I had made a sale. We had spoken about this before. I'd made a sale. It was a framed print that I had, and I hadn't signed it. I'd forgot to sign it. Usually I sign my work in the back if it's framed, or the front, either way. But this particular piece wasn't signed. I was packing up where I was vending, and he came back and ran back with a pencil, and he had the print outside of the frame. I was like, hey, I really need you to sign this for me. And I didn't really think anything of it in the moment, but when we had started to have conversations like this, and just, you know who I'm talking about.
I know.
Yeah.
I now know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, it's like when you put two and two together, someone like that asking for, and he had just met me, but he heard about me from friends of his that were there, and
collecting your work had become a sort of status symbol in some sort of way.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure it was nice that you got money for that piece, but I imagine you probably would have preferred someone who loved your art to have it instead.
Absolutely.
Because after that sale, we kind of both got the impression that the only reason that person bought it was to eventually resell it.
Yeah, it was a status thing for him and an opportunity to make money in the future.
And we don't want that. We want people to own our work that actually love and connect and care about it.
Right. I want people like us to be buying my work, but, it's difficult because it can be argued art is something that you need, of course, but when you're working a 9-to-5 job and you don't have that extra money, it's really not a need at that point. But I want people in my age group like me to be able to still buy my work, which is why I offer like payment plans and stuff like that, because now it's a way for people of all kind of incomes to still collect, and original pieces too.
In your prints too, because you make prints available, which is a lot more accessible than an original piece of art.
Yeah, the payment plan is kind of a way to make original pieces a little bit more possible for people, not just prints, because everybody should own original work. It's very special.
Yeah.
When I buy from other artists, the best feeling to be able to support them, and like now you have this piece of them.
Absolutely. And I think one of my favorite things about the AG is we have this mission that is to make art accessible to everyone. And that includes owning artwork, not just looking at it. And that's where prints become very handy.
Absolutely.
You might not be able to buy a $500 painting, but a $20 print, that's within most budgets at this point.
Yeah, stickers, prints, patches, stuff like that.
But
popular.
I've met collectors who despise prints.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I've met those people.
Because
100%.
In their eyes, it takes away from the rarity of the original.
Absolutely.
And they don't want that. They want that to be the only one, and they want to control it so that they can dictate its value and they can resell it.
Absolutely.
But that's kind of disgusting to me.
No, it is.
Like, we want art to be
Weird.
accessible.
Yeah, it's weird.
Some of those people I've convinced to like prints. Some of you will never convince. I had one person, I won't mention who they are, but they walked into our print shop, kind of giving me shit about prints, and then I gave them shit back. Long story short, they left with a print.
Love that.
So
of course I did.
I won that battle, but that's definitely not the norm.
No, prints are important.
So if you're collecting art, we implore you, please do it for the right reasons. And this isn't even the darkest part of this story. I mean, the fact that this left its country of origin by probably unethical means deepens the story. And then, that throws some shade on the elderly couple. Did they know? Did they not know? They probably didn't know, because if they did, why would they have sold it for so cheap?
Right.
And then I was reading comments online about these people. Some were, of course, going off about how disgusting the art collector is. But then you had this group that was basically saying the old couple deserves what they got because they were dumb enough to not do their own research. There we go again with that, do their own research. First of all, if there's 12 of these in the world, you need to have like the most expert of experts in this field to do any kind of real research. I mean, they had to do carbon dating on this thing. So for idiots on Facebook to be like, well, they should have did more research. Are you kidding me? They deserved this. They're 88 years old. But they're gonna go and find this information.
I think for an 80-year-old couple, they did their due diligence by making it all the way down to the antique shop and, showing this dealer. They're doing their best. That was probably the best resource they had, was this art dealer, this guy who claimed to be an appraisal expert. And they probably thought they were doing that.
I imagine it was kind of a scenario of like, the fact that they sold this for so little, again, tells me they weren't out just for money. Otherwise, they would have tried to get a lot more out of it. I think they were just trying to be mindful of not trashing something. And they probably went through a directory of art appraisers or galleries or museums and made a few calls and eventually ended up on this guy. And then here we are. So where do things now stand with the tribe? Like, I'm wondering if it's possible that the couple can still get their lawsuit settlement and the mask be repatriated. Because to me, that's
perfect.
That's
would be
the
perfect.
most beautiful ending to this story.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, I would assume technically that the couple would retain ownership of the mask. Yeah, I guess I don't know how that goes. Is that 5.5 million in addition to the mask, or does the mask remain with this mysterious millionaire who paid 4.4 for it? Do the McGill people have to go after him, her, them? Who knows?
This is still ongoing, so we have no definitive answers. And something like this could take years. I thought it was fascinating. I didn't want to wait years to discuss it, but I'll say this. We're going to keep our eyes on this story. And when there is some kind of resolution or it just winds up wherever it does, I think we should update everyone. And we got to find out who Mr. Z is. Let's shame this guy.
Mr. Z.
Mr. Z in France, right? Any other information about this mask or this story, Rob, that you want to add?
Oh, yeah, there was one more twist that we didn't even touch on, further deepening the hole that Mr. Z got himself in. So not only are they alleging that he swindled them out of this money, he also bribed, and this was in court record, that he bribed the elderly couple's gardener to help him research the provenance of the mask and like the family background. He ended up splitting some of that $4.4 million with the elderly couple's gardener. He paid the gardener to snoop around the house, look into the family and things like that. And the gardener was the one that got back to Mr. Z saying, yeah, this guy's grandfather was a colonial governor in Africa, so that's probably where this came from. Yeah, he went out of his way to be nefarious and started bribing people to the point where he gave that gardener multiple millions of dollars.
Or at least promised him.
Right. Well, I mean, the court record says that he paid the gardener.
Damn.
So yeah, that's a multi-million-dollar tip right there.
That is insane.
Wow.
This is way more twist of a tale than I expected.
Right.
Well, we got to follow this and see where it goes. I'm really intrigued by this one. So speaking of shady shit, Jay just recently watched the Telemarketers series on HBO. Jay, why don't you tell me about your experience since it's so fresh in your mind?
Well, first of all, I went into it I didn't read the synopsis. Obviously, I knew it was about telemarketing, but I had no idea what to expect. And when he started to show like the footage of his job, I was just in absolute like disbelief. I was like, I can't believe this was a thing. Like, it's a fucking roller coaster.
For those who haven't seen it, Telemarketers, it's a 3-part documentary series on HBO about a telemarketing call center in New Jersey called Civic Development Group, aka CDC. It almost sounds like CD.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder if it was intentional because there was nothing but CD shit there.
Absolutely.
And this place, it was a call center that they would call on behalf of police unions, asking people to donate money to support the police union. And they were given like 7% of the money collected. And in some cases, they weren't even giving that. So this company was using all kinds of tactics to get this money, obviously focusing on the elderly getting this money. And they didn't care who they hired. Most of the people there were felons. Some were convicted murderers who couldn't get hired anywhere else. And the reason they started filming, some of the workers were just so intrigued by all the insane stuff happening there. There were people tattooing, openly doing drugs, people having sex in the bathroom, drinking on the job openly. I mean, they literally did not
party
care.
House. He
even had permission from the company to film this stuff. And it was the early days of YouTube, if you remember in that first episode, where they were filming this stuff and then putting it on YouTube, which nobody was really on YouTube at that point, so they didn't think anything of it. And over years and years and years, they started to say, you know what? We need to take this footage and bring this company down. So the documentary, it shows you what happens in this company, and then it shows them trying to bring down the company. And the CDC has basically, it's become the recipe for all the scam calls and robocalls that we're now all so familiar with. Like they showed the one guy, I think it was in the last episode, they got a robocall from a guy that they knew.
Oh, yeah.
But had been dead for like 2 or 3 years. So for them, it was like super spooky to hear that. And I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but the fact that these robocalls and spam calls exist, obviously the documentary didn't defeat these people. Right. But it was odd because the film doesn't really have an ending.
No, not quite.
It just kind of stops.
There's like a side story, and in moments it feels like the story of Pat.
Which now is ongoing. Oddly enough, 2 weeks ago, that guy Pat went missing in Easton, here in the Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's like I said, it was like a couple days after I watched it that happened. I was like, what is? So the story, just like the last one we covered, is still ongoing. And that was the thing with the HBO series. Like, you were kind of hoping there was some kind of resolution. You were hoping they would bring this company down.
Oh yeah, of course.
And the shady fucks continue to get away with it. What are your thoughts on that, Rob? I know you watched it. You watched it before I did.
But the moment you see that footage of what it looked like inside the office, yeah, the tattooing that viscerally stands out to me. And the drug addict guy nodding off, and just I couldn't believe that, one, that these people were employed at all, and two, that they were shilling out for the police, like.
Yeah, the police union. So what you would do is when you would donate, you would get one of those stickers.
Yeah.
That you see everywhere.
That you probably have on the back of your car. At least one of you listening to this has fallen victim and has this police sticker on the back of
or the
their
bodega
car.
you go to has one on their door thinking the cops are going to protect them.
Yeah.
It's a total scam, and lots of people got duped. And there was that one really sad part where it was talking about the elderly gentleman who had dementia, who they had got like 7 or 8 times that 1 month. It was like 20, or it was like tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh, no, I remember that. Yeah, that's fucked.
And they were asking the person who did this if they had any remorse, and like, well, he'll be dead in a few months, so fuck him.
Yeah.
It was like the most heartless shit.
Terrible.
And there was the other guy, the convicted murderer, who was like calling from his bedroom, probably on house arrest or something like that.
Okay.
And when he wouldn't get a sale, like the insane shit he would say, "Oh, I hope your fucking house burns down." Like some really dark stuff.
Yeah, he was terrifying.
So the reason we mention it is because, I don't know, it's interesting. It's intriguing.
Watch it.
I think the more awareness there is of these people,
it's HBO Max, right?
Yep.
HBO in general, but HBO Max doesn't exist anymore. Now it's just Max.
Oh, it's just Max.
Just Max.
Yep,
How do you brand that?
Whoops.
Max. Yeah.
Messed that up.
How do you drop the HBO part of HBO Max from your fucking streaming? But anyways, yeah, watch Telemarketers. It was truly fascinating. So in the realm of streaming, there's been some other stuff happening with Netflix. Netflix was kind of a big part of the demise of brick and mortar video stores, right?
Right.
So guess what Netflix is doing now?
Your shit.
They're opening up brick and mortar stores called Netflix houses, the first 2 of which will be opened in 2025 here in the United States. They will be a retail space, a dining experience, and some kind of performance center.
No.
And they haven't specified what they're selling in the retail space yet. If it's physical media, it's more than likely probably a bunch of crappy tie-in merchandise.
Yeah, T-shirts and stuffed animals.
But Netflix is opening up brick and mortar stores.
Sounds like a Dave and Buster's for movie lovers.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that they announced this like right after they finished sending out their last mail-in DVDs, which I think ended in August.
What if the retail's just selling previously viewed DVDs?
But one of the things that was cool is apparently whatever the last movie was you got from Netflix, you got to keep.
Oh.
I like that. You know,
neat.
yeah, I think there was like a special envelope and stuff like that. I like that. I guess we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, I think I'll get a nice like ironic giggle out of it if they do end up selling physical media. Like they basically build a Blockbuster with a burger joint attached to it.
Well, they did release like Stranger Things on DVD and Blu-ray, and they did them in like a big box VHS style to mimic what it would have looked like if it released it on VHS in the 80s, which I thought was cool. But it's like, let's be honest. You're looking at these niche markets of like VHS collectors and being like, that shit's cool. We're going to copy that. So we're going to do a whole episode of physical media. But I thought this was fascinating because obviously most people have Netflix or they're watching it in some way. And I think it's mind-blowing. The company that contributed to the destruction of brick and mortar spaces are now getting into the brick and mortar business, which tells you that trends are shifting. People are tired of being online. They want in-person experiences once again, which everyone said was dead.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So that just shows you how things go full circle with art and entertainment. I know we've been talking about a lot of random stuff here. I just think these are interesting things I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I hope other people listening find it interesting. And it relates in one way or another to art and entertainment, and it's something we should pay attention to, because if we like where it's going, we should support it. If we don't like where it's going, we should help push it in a better direction. I just think that's how life should work, so that's why I bring it up. But like I said at the beginning of this episode, we had a lot of great feedback about our episode about the history of AG. And we kind of are in a new phase now, post-pandemic, after everything that's happened in the world and the Lehigh Valley. And AGX was kind of the coming together of our group and of local artists after the pandemic. And on June 16th, 2022, the Alternative Gallery celebrated its 10-year anniversary.
Wild.
We talked a lot about what to do for that show. So we wanted to have an art exhibit with artists we had worked with over the years, but at the same time, we needed a true retrospect of what the AG had become, which was like the main exhibition of that show.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we went through our archives and we found old show posters and flyers and random drawings and signs from Arts Fest and random things. Jay, what was that experience like going through all the old stuff for you?
It was pretty emotional. It was really, really neat. Just fine. Like, one of my favorite things personally was you keep everything.
I do.
And even the smallest piece of paper with a doodle of mine was saved. Like, there was just countless little pieces of paper just spread all over all of these like old flyers.
Like a ripped piece of paper that you were just drawing on randomly, not paying attention when you're talking to someone, and then I save it.
Yeah, everything has been saved. And so...
Not everything, but a lot.
A lot. But yeah, I mean, putting this entire like retrospective show together with just the three of us, and of course doing it last minute in the fashion that, you know...
True artists.
A true artist. But, you know, we made it happen in time, and we did it because we love it, and we hope that people look at it and can enjoy it and...
reflect on what they were there for.
Right, exactly.
And we were kind of hoping, because we hung at salon style with things, there was no like coordination. It was all very random, fill in the space, basically from floor to ceiling.
Yep.
And we wanted people to kind of feel overwhelmed by the amount of things we have done over the years. Because we've been overwhelmed.
It's overwhelming.
By the amount of things we've done over the years. And when you like literally step back and take a look at it, the wall that is, of all these things, you're like, good God, look how much we've done. Right. And this is just some of it. That wasn't every show we've ever done, not even close.
Nope. Yeah.
That wasn't every doodle. That wasn't every set list. Mm-mm. That wasn't every pass or something that we had vended at some event and they gave us something for. But I thought this stuff was special to keep. And we had talked about maybe one day doing a book. Scanning, because remember in that process I was scanning a lot of it too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's something we really want to take serious one day, is doing books, because putting this stuff online is really cool, but having a physical dedicated book, like a coffee table book that shows the history, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
What was that experience like for you, Rob?
There were just so many instant memory, like things that I didn't even remember happening. And then, I grab a flyer or like a piece of paper, a little whatever, as I'm putting it on the wall, and I am instantly taken back to the moment when it happened. Like, oh man, like I can't believe the amount that we have gone through and the things that we've done to get here where we are. It is immense. Just like that big picture of staring at that wall with all of that stuff on there. That is what my brain feels like when I try to comprehend like all of the things that we've done in the journey that we've been on with this place.
Yeah, it's been a gauntlet, but it's really trained us to kind of deal with things in a number of different ways. And we've now found a really good balance of how to do things and what kind of things to do, how often, which it was a long learning process. I think I described to both of you up to this point, the AG has felt to me like it's been one of those super long and intricate training levels.
Right.
And you just want it to be over with so you can start the game. We're still in that training level, everyone. We haven't even started the game. But like I said, I think we really know what we're doing now. And when we did that AGX show, for most people, it was the first time they had been here in a long time.
Yeah.
Because we were shut down for 2 years during the pandemic. And then when we did start doing shows, it was like here and there. maybe a metal show here, a punk show there. We didn't do any dance events. But like I said, this was the first time a lot of people came back. So it was the first time we had seen some of these people. And it was our first venture back into trying to be open normally. Like we mentioned in the very first episode, the pandemic was hard for us, like it was everyone else.
Absolutely. We
absolutely would have qualified for that Save Our Stages Act. That funding would have been available to us. The reason we chose not to get that was because you had to do something like 3 years of reporting and accounting after that. And we currently don't have a dedicated accountant. So we knew that was going to be difficult for us to do at that time. So we're like, you know what? We're going to suck it up and just try to get through the best way we can, because we don't want to take this money as a lifeline and then not be able to meet those requirements and put ourselves in a bad position. I mean, I know Rob and I, we had a lot of conversations about that, and that was tough to say, all right, we're not going to go for that. But we knew we didn't have the resources to give what was needed. So again, it was because of those laser discs and eBay sales that we made that saved the gallery.
Of course.
Without that, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about any of this right now. So what were those days like after the pandemic, Rob, when we started getting shows going again?
I mean, I was real excited about it when we first made the decision to start doing shows and live events, but then I was real nervous the first couple of nights that we had people back, because not only did we have to do all of the normal stuff that we do at a show, making sure that we're checking IDs, we're getting people wristbanded, everyone's behaving at the shows, but we also had to make sure that people were not visibly sick and standing distanced apart, masks regulations, things like that, and had to be extra diligent about people leaving things like empty drink bottles behind and discarded masks and stuff.
Yeah, having hand sanitizer.
Yeah, it was a whole new ball game when it came to the normal routine that, over the almost 10 years at that point that we'd gotten accustomed to. Was a whole new set of rules that we had to play with. And honestly, I feel like the first event or two, I couldn't enjoy it the way I did previously before the pandemic, because I was so concerned for not just for my health and safety, but also to make sure that we as an organization were doing everything to make sure that everyone that showed up was being safe.
Well, after not having anyone here for 2 years, all of a sudden unlocking those doors and come on in, dozens of people, like that's a little shocking. It's jarring. And we were concerned about what was going to come in through those doors. So I think AGX, that 10-year show, was the first point of us being back on track. Would you both agree with that?
Definitely.
Yeah.
We've kind of worked from there to get things going more regularly, and we had a lot of issues with the city as far as their support of the arts. And because we weren't in the Hamilton district, which was where we started the gallery, but oddly enough got forced out because of the arena.
Right.
Because we were no longer there, we were no longer really a part of what was happening in the art scene as far as the city was concerned. So for a number of years, there was no funding for the arts, and all of a sudden, after the pandemic, there's all this money for the arts. And then it became this thing where a lot of that money for the arts was going to out-of-state artists to do murals in the shopping district. And we knew so many of our artist friends that weren't getting that money, who were constantly complaining about being left out, complaining about reaching out to the city, reaching out to the Arts Commission, and not getting anywhere with it. And people came to us. After a couple of years, we finally approached the mayor's office, and we said, hey, there's a growing problem here in the city of Allentown where you have dozens and dozens of artists who are trying to get involved and do things, but they feel there's no opportunity here for them. And you two were both a part of that meeting with the mayor's office. We had it here at the gallery with a number of artists. And the mayor's office told us to put our issues in writing and to state what we would like to have changed. Is that correct to the both of your recollection?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, get some artists to sign it, right? I think they intended they probably meant like 5 or 10 artists who were having problems sign this. But then we were doing those artist meetups, which we were calling artist takeovers. And we didn't expect to get as many artists to sign this as we did. At least I didn't. I was hoping to have a lot, but I was like, all right, maybe this artist meetup will get 30, 40, and let it hang around for a while and see if artists want to continue signing it. We hit 100 signatures. And that, to me, showed there is a bigger problem here than we expected.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
It's just people haven't talked about it amongst themselves. It's just kind of something that we just started mentioning and like getting in the ears of people that maybe weren't paying attention to this kind of thing before.
Well, and even among us who are so solid on the issue of where we stand, even we were uncertain if we should discuss this on this podcast, because there is this embedded thought that if you speak out for any kind of change, you're going to be labeled a troublemaker and you're going to be excluded from things if there are resources made available. The two reasons that I know that people don't speak up about things are they're afraid of retaliation and they're afraid of being excluded, which I guess could also be considered retaliation. That's why most people don't speak up about things. They're afraid if they speak up, someone's going to do something back against them.
Right.
But I think what happened with artists is that in this situation, we saw there were so many of us saying the exact same thing, and we wanted the exact same thing. So we got these artists to sign this, and we gave it to the mayor's office. We felt there were people on the Arts Commission that were holding it back from what it should have been to actually be serving the needs of working artists in the city. And from what we've seen happen, they made the changes we wanted.
Yeah, it happened pretty fast, too. So there was like all of this hope built into this, like, we did it. We got 100 signatures, and like, we actually made it happen. Guys, we did it.
Yeah. The alternative gallery has always been considered the outsiders of the Allentown art scene. Whether we were those young punks in the hallway doing Arts Fest or trying to build a serious cultural center here in North Allentown, the city has always kind of treated us like, you guys are a bunch of punks and we don't want you in the real art scene. So we thought we had real change with this letter.
Oh, yeah.
And Allentown Arts Commission, it's an advisory board that makes a recommendation to the mayor of how to spend city funds on the arts and what the city should focus on. They have no power whatsoever. They give ideas and they bounce things around and tell the mayor, hey, this is what we think you should do. So after we had some of those people step down from the Arts Commission that we thought were holding things back, we thought it was finally an opportunity for the alternative gallery to have a seat at the table.
Yeah, that was like the next obvious
So what
goal.
So tell me, either one of you, what you felt in that moment leading up to what we're about to talk about. Like, what did you think was about to happen? How were you feeling?
I was hopeful. I was like, here we go. Finally, like, we're going to work with them. We're going to get shit done. We're actually going to be represented here and heard and taken seriously. Because the petition worked so well and fast, you know, there was like all of this hope that things were really going to start to happen.
Yeah, people were very hopeful. And what was your take on that, Rob?
I mean, it seemed like an open door for the gallery, like execute on some of the projects that we've always been held back on because we didn't have that support from the city. For me, it felt like we were getting a sense of legitimacy finally, that people were listening, that they understood what was going on. They saw the impact that everything that we've done up to this point has had on the community and how the community is behind us, so that they were finally ready to listen, that they understood that we should be included in the conversation at the very least.
How you both felt, that's also how I felt. I thought things were heading in the right direction. Like, I'm very passionate about what I do. I became very passionate about the city of Allentown and making things better over the years. And I've turned a lot of people around in Allentown, Jay, you being one of them. When we first started the gallery, you were one of the people, you didn't understand why I was in Allentown. Eventually you did, and you came to love it. You're now a resident of Allentown. You now call yourself an Allentown artist, right?
Yeah.
We have changed the opinions of so many people about this city. And through the years, I've had conversations with countless people trying to share my passion and my ideas of the city I would like to see and the city I would like to live in. And I've heard so many times, oh, you should run for mayor, you should run for city council, you should be in the Arts Commission. My response was always the same. I'm not cut from that cloth. I'm not a politician, nor do I want to be, nor do I want to play that game. And I said, instead of us being politicians, I would instead like to work with the politicians to do things right. I think that would have been the better direction for us to go.
Absolutely.
So after constantly hearing that stuff that I should do, I should get involved, enough artists convinced me that, okay, you got it. The artists wanted me to join the Arts Commission.
Yeah, I wanted you to, I feel like you were able to use your voice to help so many different people, and you had so many people backing this, that where the story goes, which you'll hear in a moment, it's like, yeah, it's unbelievable.
So
it's unbelievable.
The journey that we took here with trying to fix the Arts Commission, it wasn't my idea. It wasn't something that I pursued. It was because I feel I have an obligation to the artists we work with and to my community. And I just didn't see things getting done. And people kept asking me to do it. So I was like, you know what? I'm responsible for your well-being. I'm going to make this shit happen. I'm going to do it. I made the decision, okay, after this happens, if they actually make the change, I will submit an application to be a part of the Arts Commission. And every single person thought I was a shoo-in, right?
There was no doubt.
There was no doubt. It wasn't even a question. Not even a question,
Nope.
right? So what ended up happening? I'm at this at the Arts Commission meeting this past Thursday, 9 o'clock in the morning. You figured that one out. And I'm looking around the table. I attend Arts Commission meetings regularly yet again. I used to attend them and then stop because they were bullshit. They weren't doing anything. They would have this public display of a meeting and then have the real meeting afterwards. So it's like, why even bother? So I started getting involved again, trying to help the city go where it needed to go. And I'm looking around and see all these new people around the table. And I'm like, I don't know who these people are. And I got there a few minutes late, so I missed the announcement that these people were all new commissioners on the Arts Commission. And I didn't realize until about halfway through the meeting that there were new arts commissioners, and I was not one of them. And I had to wait until the meeting was over to ask the mayor's office what had happened. And they told me the mayor did not pick you this round. Which is like, how? First of all, how many rounds are there? It's not a round.
Yeah,
it's not a game.
Right.
Right? Like, I've been doing this as the AG alone for 11 years for free. And I just literally organized with artists to make this change that you just made apparently happen. And the mayor told me that he will not be putting me on the commission and would not give me a reason why.
Such bullshit, dude.
The podcast is an example of why he won't do it. I'm outspoken. I'm not trying to be outspoken. And everything that I speak against is something I tried to work with that person on beforehand. Nat Hyman, I'm super against him and how he runs his properties in the city of Allentown. I've approached Nat Hyman on a number of occasions to try to reason with him and work with him and get him to listen. He doesn't care. That's why I had to ultimately go and fight him in zoning. Same thing with City Center. We tried to work with City Center. Rob was right there with me working with City Center, trying to make that work. City Center only cares about Hamilton Street. They don't want to fund Arts Fest. For those listening, and the reason we're even talking about this is, again, a lot of the artists that listen to this podcast are artists who signed this petition.
Right.
And this is probably the first time they're going to hear about this because it's recent news. The reason that we don't work with City Center at this point is because they actually wanted us to move Arts Fest from Cedar Beach and make it a street festival on Hamilton Street.
Insane. Why would you do that?
Because they don't understand why Arts Fest is held at Cedar Beach to begin with.
And they wanted to use us as a tool to make downtown look good.
It's all about activation. That's what all about, activation.
Right.
The fact that people are in your city is the activation.
And it's not activation if you're pulling from one end of the city to make the other one look good.
So I'll say this. I was at least very hurt that I wasn't picked as an arts commissioner. You know, it makes me feel worthless that 11 and a half years almost at this point of just the alternative gallery alone, everything we've done, I'm not even worth one of 15 seats to make a recommendation to you. Again, there's no power on the Arts Commission.
Totally insulting.
It's an advisory board. That, to me, it was a painful reminder of how the city still sees the alternative gallery and still sees everything we work with. I mean, just this past weekend, we had to pack out the Crump event, which was amazing. We had dancers come in from Tennessee, South Carolina, Las Vegas, all up and down the New England area. We had artists fly in from France and Germany for this event. And many of them, it was their first time in Allentown. Some of them want to know what their first time was in Allentown.
The first pack
out.
The first pack out last year.
Yeah.
That was their first one.
Right.
So it's like we brought in all these people who stayed in hotels, who stayed in Airbnbs, who ate at local restaurants, who went shopping. And that is one of many, many, many events we do throughout the year where that happens. And yet the city keeps denying that we actually contribute anything as far as the arts. So, yeah, I'm a little pissed. Yeah, I'm a little bitter. And I'm making it publicly known that in a lot of ways, we're fucking boycotting the city.
Right.
We are only going to work with independent organizations, independent businesses, and we are going all in on our building. We've always called our building kind of an island, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
I've often described Allentown as Africa and we're Madagascar. We were once connected, but now we're separated by water. But what's cool about that is we get to evolve in isolation. We get to have things that exist here that will never exist over there.
Right.
And the whole point was to cross-pollinate and collaborate. Clearly, they don't want it. Is that what you guys take from this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're at a point where they think they've either exhausted us as a resource to further their own cause, or that we couldn't be beaten and molded into the status quo. Part of me wonders if the reason that you weren't put on the commission is that, yeah, okay, you're outspoken, but isn't that someone you want on an advisory board? Somebody to tell you maybe when you're wrong, someone to lead you in another direction, someone to have opinions. That is all of who you are and what you do. So it kind of seems to me like maybe he didn't want somebody that's going to challenge the way things are being done. He just wants a group of people that'll have their little meeting, submit their email with their suggestions, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Maybe you might have been too much of a challenge for him to take on.
You know, a part of it is a relief, because I was trying to figure out how I was going to balance that, having one foot in this world and one foot in that world. And I think what a big part of it comes down to is that I'm very outspoken and vocal against the bad development in the city. But how can you not be? Any random visitor to the city of Allentown can tell you there's no one downtown. How can you be spending this much money and nothing's happening? I mean, even if the AG had $1 million, we would have improved this city in far greater ways than what's happening, or rather not happening, on Hamilton Street. Jay, so what's your take on things thus far?
I kind of feel like it's a blessing in disguise. Like, it almost needed to happen for us to refocus. And if it wasn't this, it would have eventually been something. Like, they were never going to be people that we could work with. And we tried. We really, really tried.
We did.
And
yeah,
I just think it needed to happen for us to refocus everything.
And I think there were some core disagreements that the mayor and I had, Rob, that you were actually there for one of the conversations. And I was trying to tell the mayor that the city of Allentown, it only allocates $150,000 of the city budget a year towards the arts. 2024, it's supposed to be going up to 175, but for the last few years, it's only been 150, which is nothing, right? You take that $150,000, you're giving $20,000, $30,000 at a time for a mural. You blow through that money quick. And a lot of those, 80% of those murals, at least for the first couple of years, were not going to Allentown artists. They only started giving it to more Allentown artists when people started bitching about it, right? I told the mayor I thought that money could be better spent being put in the hands of working artists in the way of small grants, $5,000 grants. So you have a $150,000 budget. You take $75,000 of that and you put it right towards special events and art upkeep, because that's what the city wants to focus on. And then you take the other $75,000 and you give it to local artists, working artists in Allentown. $5,000 could be life-changing for an artist.
Oh, absolutely.
If you had a $5,000 grant, Jay, how would that help you as an artist in Allentown?
I mean, I would be able to survive off of that for a while. And that's like art supplies, that's helping pay mortgage. Like, that's serious money for someone like me.
You give $2,000-$3,000, that's a month, two max. You can't even get an apartment in Allentown for under like $1,300 now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I told the mayor in that meeting, Rob, that you were at, that I thought the money was better spent on those small initiatives. Do you remember what his response was?
Not off the top of my head, honestly.
Remember, he said that he disagreed and he thought it was better spent on those bigger projects because he thought it would have more impact?
Oh, yeah. It seemed like he's focused on what it's going to do for the city and how it's going to make the city look, and not for the artists and the people that it would be helping by breaking it down into those smaller $5,000 grants. He wants the city to look pretty. He wants the appearance of prosperity.
Yeah, my impression of what the city's done with their money the last few years as far as the arts is to kind of trick visitors into the city of Allentown to thinking the city is supportive of the arts. Jay, do you think the city is supportive of the arts?
No. I think the artists of Allentown are supportive of each other, but as far as having our commission care about us like at all, no.
When we first started the gallery, we did a lot of art exhibits because it was kind of the only thing we could do when we started the gallery. We couldn't do a lot of music. This is when we're still on Hamilton Street here. So we were busting out those art shows every 2 weeks, and then it was like monthly. And then as we added more stuff in, we did art shows less frequently because we had more things to occupy our time. And because of that, our workload, that is, we haven't had as many art shows as we'd liked, which we want to rectify. We want to fix. So we're going to start having a lot more solo and duo shows here at the gallery and other locations. The first of which is going to be Brandon Dominguez.
Yeah, great artist.
Yeah, amazing Allentown artist. He's been involved with this since last year when we started the Third Thursday Art Market. That's how he got involved. So something came out of that at least. And he's going to have a pop-up show in December, early December. We're going to be announcing the date soon. And we're going to have every couple months another artist do this. And another thing is we're going to start offering more classes and workshops, something we've been talking about.
Yep.
You know, we do the kids classes for children on Saturdays. Monica teaches those for the neighborhood kids and anyone else who wants to drop in. But there's so many neighborhood kids now that we're trying to cater to them as much as possible. Right. Eventually, we'll have to add more classes in to accommodate. But Monica's only one person. So, hey, if you want to help teach some art classes for kiddos, we got the kids. We just need more folks to come lend a hand. And a big thing I think we're going to focus on now is doing stuff out of state, out of town and out of state. Because I think we've exhausted a lot of our options here in Allentown for the time being. And there are so many opportunities out there in the world that I feel like we're missing. And we want to, in a way, connect the dots, right?
Right.
Like at the Pack Out, I met a ton of awesome people from Boston who want a space like this. They would love to have a space like this in Boston. And I'm sure the two of you hear it constantly, that people come here from another city and they talk about how they wish they had something like this in their city.
All the time.
That's
right?
probably one of the most common comments from
definitely.
out-of-state visitors.
Yep.
And we hear it so often, we kind of like dismiss it, don't think too much of it. But lately I've been thinking a lot about that. You know, everybody that comes and visits this place from out of town wishes they had it. The city that does have it doesn't seem to really care that it's here.
Right.
So instead of being spiteful and fighting and pushing the city, I want to fulfill those wishes for those people. Let's go out there. Let's throw some pop-up shows. Let's throw some artist takeover events. Let's open new gallery locations out there. Let's empower these people to have a space, because then what happens is Allentown artists who might not have opportunity here, we got 50 other places for you to go. You don't got to just be stuck here. Take your pick. And then when those artists are coming through from other cities, of course, they still have this location to come to as well. Do you think that's the direction we should go?
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to travel more. I know we went to Asheville. It was pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
a nice bonding experience.
Absolutely.
And I definitely want more of that. I want to meet more artists and like-minded people. And yeah, I'm excited to travel.
Yeah.
Excited to travel.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to kind of go on tour, almost like we're a band. Load all the artwork and everything into a an RV and
Hell
just
yeah.
hit the road.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, we're looking more and more at our building here in North Allentown as headquarters. And we are looking to spread our wings and really collaborate with places that actually appreciate what we're doing. Right?
Definitely.
So what places would you guys like to see us go to on the East Coast at least?
New York is
New York, yep.
It's a big one.
Yeah, so next year we're hoping to do New York and Boston, some art events out there.
I'd like to give Pittsburgh a shot. I mean, not quite East Coast, but relatively short travel. It seems like that's a pretty hip town. They've got a good budding art scene going on there.
And they got the Heinz ketchup money.
Yeah.
They fund a lot of cultural stuff out there. I know someone that works out there was telling me that. D.C., Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
That's a place I think we need to be. Of course, New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans would be sick.
So this is our 10th episode. I think I've successfully mentioned New Orleans, or at least referenced it once in every episode.
You would.
Of course I would. Of course I would. We're looking to get out there and get on the road and meet more artists. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're not from Allentown and you got a city or town that either has it going on or you think should have it going on, reach out to us, email us, hit us up on social media. We'd love to come out. Even if it's the first trip is just a fact-finding mission for us to meet you and check things out and see what we could do. We're happy to do that if we can, but we'd much prefer to come and throw an event with you too.
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to us. Let us know, can we crash on your couch? Where's the good pizza place? Anything that we would need and would make us want to come out and explore your town or your city, drop a comment, send us an email, do whatever you have to do. Let us know.
I'm really excited about the direction of things
I'm super
to
excited.
come.
I'm excited.
So as far as upcoming events, we do have the Bear Sloth Show on Saturday, November 4th. They are playing with Big Shabuzi.
The Living Things and Iridescence are going to be there too, yeah.
Yep. So that show is Saturday, November 4th at 7 p.m., $10, all ages. And then we have the Dusty Cans, a screening at the Emmaus Theater. That is the films that the Alternative Gallery saved over the summer. We're pulling out the 16mm films and curating some amazing blocks of cultural films, historical stuff, music stuff, some really off-the-wall animation, and just unexpected treats. And that's $25. It's a donation to support our film archive, both with adding to it and maintaining what is already in the archive, you can go to our Indiegogo and support that. You can get yourself a ticket. And like I said, we're going to have another art exhibit coming up with Brendan Dominguez in December. So lots of great things to look forward to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. You guys have any parting words before we head off into the void of the day?
Oh, it was fun. It's always awesome talking to you guys.
Avoid downtown.
Avoid downtown.
Avoid downtown.
Thank you guys as always. I look forward to the next chat. If you want to support this podcast, again, go to thealternativegallery.com and click on that podcast tab. See you next time on the Art Bazaar.